So thank you for the opportunity to be in this webinar. Let me share my screen. Is my screen visible, Dr. Goyal?
Yes, very much. Beautiful.
Thank you so much. This is such a really privilege and honor for me to be speaking in this webinar. And the topic I have chosen for today is why we as neurosurgeons should also be researchers. I bring warm greetings to you from snow-capped mountains and the rhododendron, which is very popular and very present in Nepal. And this is the hospital in Kathmandu where I work. It is an 800-bedded multi-specialty hospital with a dedicated neurosurgery department with a residency program. This is my disclaimer in this presentation. It takes considerable knowledge just to realize the extent of your own ignorance. I learned that to be a good neurosurgeon, you should also be a good researcher in quite later part of my career. So this is my ignorance, and I still learning this. So this is the general question I'd like to start my presentation with. Does doing research make you rich and famous? Everybody knows who this guy is, and everybody knows who this woman is. But very few people might know who this gentleman is. He is based on this data ranking wave of universities in 2022. Professor Kessler is the one with the highest number of citations. Maybe somebody has beaten this record, but not many people know him. So this is one of the reasons that technically you will not be that famous or rich by doing research, but still you need to do. Another question I have for all of you is, does supervising your resident make you rich and famous? This is Professor Sam Wu, a professor at both University of Michigan and University of Wisconsin. He holds the record of supervising 113 PhD students, highest number till date. And this is another professor, Julian Swinger, the Nobel laureate in physics at Harvard, and he has the record of supervising 75 PhDs, and 4 of them went on to win the Nobel Prize. But they are not necessarily famous, but you have to do some work to advance your science forward. And this I borrowed from Dr. Mortenius from Netherlands. What happens when we all concentrate only on the OR and seeing clinic and not participating in research? We will become better and better in those surgeries that we perform more often. Patients and OR staffs will admire you for your great surgical skill. Probably you will earn more money, and you tend to impress your colleagues / enemies. The better you become, you will definitely earn some enemies. So these are all seem positive effect. Then but it isn't great, because we will be nothing more than good craftsmen rather than a scientist, and we will need other people with knowledge to tell us what we should do. And third, we will only be a knowledge consumer and not a knowledge producer, which is not a good thing to be if we claim that we are really good clinical scientists. So this is the reason we need to be involved in research. Otherwise, we'll go back to the barber surgeon period. This Dr. Robert Liston, he has the record of doing the lower leg amputation in 2.5 minutes, supposed to be the fastest knife. But this is not the way the modern neurosurgeon should practice. You would be a perfect craftsman, but not a scientist. So with this background, I'd like to delve into the basic concept of research. So this is the way we learn new knowledge. First and foremost is the experience, but the disadvantage of experience is your life is too short to learn everything by experience. And next is reasoning or logic, and the logic also is slow, but the next and the most scientific way of acquiring new knowledge is by conducting research. Obviously, research has two components. First is the systematic investigation of the thing. which involves some methods applied in the process. And the next aspect is the thing has to be generalizable. Whenever you do a research, then the results of the research should be generalizable beyond the sample population. So rationale for conducting research, this is really old data, 1990, but it still holds true. The doing research is the most scientific method to understand the epidemiology of disease, determine the utility and applicability of the diagnostic test, best select the best treatment modalities, and develop new tools and methodologies to measure and promote health equity. So these are the reasons we need to do research by ourselves. Now another argument is, why should we do research in developing countries when there is ample research done in high income countries? The reasons are these, strengthening research capacity in developing countries with a different geography and culture is one of the most effective and sustainable ways of advancing health and development in this country. This was the 1090 report on health research by Global Forum for Health Research. Another specific reason is good quality research is central to the health system strengthening in any country, and the results of the research in high income countries may not be generalizable to developing countries for obvious reason, because they have got different genetic makeup, they have got different way of responding to the disease. This is another reason. And despite being home to over 80% of the world population, developing countries are hugely underrepresented in the world literature. And this is also another fact that we need to overcome. But this is the paradox here. Definition in developing country, definition of research in developing countries like this. This is a ketchup which fits in with every kind of dishes you make. So many hospitals in developing countries, they write their name as this hospital and research center. Hardly any research is done there. So this is the problem with us. Now I take you through why neurosurgeons do the research. I'll quote from this journal, World Journal of Orthopedics. So they have written this editorial as research in spine surgery. If spine surgeons do not want poor quality research to dictate and limit their clinical decision, then the responsibility rests with this group of practitioners to design high quality studies to justify certain treatment modalities. You cannot make decision based on the research done somewhere else. You have to do it by yourselves. This will be the argument. And why we should be doing, clinicians should be at the forefront, clinical scientists, because we have the first-hand access to the patient. Not that you misutilize the access to your advantage, but at least you have the access where you can do the research. There has been some triggers for accelerated growth of research in developing country last 20 years or so. These are mainly with the advent of fourth industrial revolution. There has been rapid advances in travel, the internet and social media platforms. And increasingly, it has become easier to identify the research gaps and arrange international collaboration and logistics. And the biggest trigger is the COVID-19 pandemic that bridged the geographical boundaries and making research dissemination much easier than ever. So this was the publication, little old publication, 2013, but it shows the status of clinical trials in Asia. So these are the countries where clinical studies have been performed from 2001 to 2012, and India and Thailand were the most highly active countries where the clinical studies were performed. And next slide shows the top 10 countries with the clinical trial, top 10 leading countries in East Asia, South Asia and Southeast Asia from 2001 to 12. Here also India, Republic of Korea, Taiwan and China leading the front. Nepal is still not represented here, but we work hard to make sure that next similar paper will be represented here as well. So a couple of slides regarding the neurosurgical publication in Nepal. You look at this from 1999 to 2024, there has been sharp increase in the number of publication from Nepal as well. And from 2018 to 2094, it has really gone up. Thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic, always some positive side effect. And this is the paper we published last year in Brain and Spine Academic Neurosurgery in Nepal. And this shows the trend of publication of article in PubMed Index journal by Nepalese neurosurgeon. And if you look at from 2001 to 2022, there has been steady growth of the number of publication from Nepal. So I think Nepal is one of the countries that can be extrapolated as a low and middle income country, and it might represent the similar trend of other countries too. So what are the barriers and the potential solution for increasing the research in developing countries? One argument is the insufficient research capacity. Yes, there is some research capacity insufficient compared to some big institute, but they are not that bad also. Every medical college is supposed to have a research center or department. So if we do that, then we'll be able to address. And inadequate research enthusiasm, in my opinion, is the main culprit why we have not been able to, able to pump more research paper from our side. So further, to address the inadequate research enthusiasm, we have to incorporate research methodology courses in the undergraduate as well as postgraduate programs, so they will be more interested in research and publication. And another is we need to have encouragement and mentorship by the senior faculty, so that the junior will be interested to conduct this. And another important thing, in my opinion, is we have to incentivize the research performed. If research is considered something extra and it doesn't give you any incentive, people immediately lose interest, especially the clinician. So it could be in the form of offering more job opportunities or higher salary or faster career advancement, or some scholarship to participate in conference. It could be in many forms that will encourage young colleagues to be involved in research. Lack of expertise used to be the main reason until 2 decades ago. Now in every country there are some people who are interested and have some expertise in research. So you have to to address this lack of expertise. Training courses, multilateral collaboration will help, and sometimes you can ensure that short-term visit to the International Research Center is done, or you can invite international experts who are involved in research to train the local scientists. This is how we can address this. And lack of funding. Lack of funding is never an issue for me, in my opinion. There is always some way you can get your research done, both nationally and internationally. Many organizations offer fund, but it's the question of knowing where to apply and how to get it done. Another way is to get the collaboration. Third and most important, the last one and most important in my opinion, is the brain drain. Whoever is expert tend to leave the country, especially Asia and Africa. That is the problem. And how to retain these, the brain is an issue for the policymaker. But you can help by developing adequate infrastructure at home, or providing protected research time for this, and some degree of financial security. There was an article why America is poaching doctors from the Asia. It was a beautiful article in, I think, New York Times, and one of the reason is the financial stability is one of the most one of the reason why doctors leave developing country and migrate to rich country. Dissemination of the research work. This was the WHO bulletin, and it says why is research from developing country underrepresented. And this was a BMJ open paper which has analyzed what are the reasons why these are underrepresented. And this is the reason I think why we are so underrated. Not that we have not done any research. Dissemination of research carried out in developing countries is vital, as said earlier, but the reasons are hard to get published in the mainstream journal. The reasons are this, small scale research cannot compete with other more rigorous research in the high impact journals factor. And another is the suboptimal scientific writing skill. This is the area where we can make an impact doing paper writing courses. And another is high publication cost in mainstream international journal. Thanks to Professor Kato and Asian Congress of Neurological Surgeons, where they have got open access PubMed Index Journal, Asian Journal of Neurosurgery. But other high-end journal usually charge money, and then this could be a barrier. Another is, senior members with international exposure can guide the younger colleagues to disseminate this and focus more on the quality rather than quantity. We have seen younger colleagues to be the paper mill. Every day you do not need to have one paper out. There will be some compromise. You should concentrate on having a good quality rather than quantity of the journal. And it is wrong to launch a new journal without a significant pool of good quality articles. I have seen that happen in Nepal. Too many journals are there competing with for a good quality articles, and which doesn't serve any purpose. Your journal's standard will never go high. That's another reason. And the periodic scientific writing workshop is the way to go to address this issue. So just one, this is same. I would say this is shameless advertisement. This is my YouTube channel, and this is how I want to disseminate the research related content, which I upload almost every week, and to my younger colleagues. So to conclude my presentation for today, we need to, senior member of the society should do something related to research so that the younger generation will be inspired. This I took from Susutra, who is the ancient surgeon of Hindu philosophy. What he said is through continuity survives. He is the one who first started the pedicle flap for the rhinoplasty, and he suggested to have a pedicle with an artery so that the flap will no longer be dead. Same thing with us, the senior member of the society, if they do not transmit the research knowledge to the younger generation, then the flap will not survive. Thank you so much for your attention. This is my concluding slide. Thank you, Professor Goel.
Thank you, Mohan. That was a wonderful presentation. What we must also realize, as you rightly said, there are limitations of writing, limitations of doing research, and limitations of various kinds of activities. There are limitations in our, but also we must realize that we have some advantages, that our patient volume is very big. We can work on more patients. Our complexity of cases is very big. So we have some advantages, and we should use those advantages to write our experience. And I have to an extent, felt that what we can contribute from relatively poor countries is our experience with cases, because we don't lack now technology too much, and not too much technology in any case required for neurosurgery. We have the patient volume, and we should showcase our work through our volumes and our complexity. All in all, Mohan, that was a very fantastic. Many young people will be encouraged, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Can I add one line? I loved your talk, Mohan. I think it's beautiful to invite everyone to participate in research, because it elevates the entire department. It makes your thinking critical. It makes you multidisciplinary. No matter where you live, nobody can prevent you from reading. Reading is the first thing you need to do to understand where's the knowledge gap. What is out there? What do we know? What is rare? What is frequent? And yes, maybe you can't compete with a high technology lab in Harvard or in the UK, but you can always contribute in a smart, astute observation. And you can start with rare diseases writing your experience how to manage very advanced disease or manage the same disease with limited resources. And I think there's a huge value in contributing smaller series to the literature of well-managed patients. And therefore, you don't need to compete with, the big institutions that have big registries. So don't be shy in starting with a good observation, read about it, and then smart writing will open any door. And with the help of some guidance from senior surgeons around this platform or other WFNS institutions, you will get out there and get your word out and your name out.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Hello, can I say a word?
Yes, yes, please, of course.
Thank you very much. Excellent talk. Fantastic. Well done. And I agree with my colleagues who have just spoken. It's very important to do the research. Basically, it's answering one question, is why are we having this problem? And once you know the why, then you can act on it and correct the problem. The only thing I wanted to add is that I believe we shouldn't put together the fact that for you to do research, you need to have a lot of money. That's, I think, completely wrong. There are a lot of discoveries which were done on corners of the world where there was almost nothing, and they managed. So the most important thing is the mind, which is looking for the problem, the connection of this problem with the environment or whatever, food or whatever, how we can correct it. It's very, very important. So the fact that you don't have doesn't mean that you cannot contribute to the world science. Okay, just give you an example. We contributed to how to avoid infection when we put the VP shunt. This is a simple operation, but the complications in terms of infection are quite high. We found that it was just easy by chance, because we were looking for that solution. We found that by just changing the way we work, using isobetadine on a regular basis, basically working on the wet kind of environment, we managed to prevent a lot of infections. It's not something which you're going to earn, a Nobel Prize, but it definitely solves our problem of infection in that particular thing. So that can be applied in a lot of pathologies. Thank you very much.
Ben?
Yes, and thank you so much. And I totally agree with what Professor Mohan's and Professor Casper's comments. And I think for us as a young neurosurgeon, what besides we fulfill our clinical duty to surgical practice and research in an inevitable part of our training, and we should, in order to improve our department, we should encourage ourselves or our colleagues to push forward. So one of the questions I would like to ask Professor Mohan about. So in developing countries, and I know there are so many trials that you could start on and start publishing, but how about for the very junior colleagues in your department? So how could you encourage them to take more initiatives in the research? So what's your
thank you. Thank you for the question. We encourage them to start with a simple case report. Somebody who is really novice, they start with a simple case report and do the observational study. So retrospective case series, anything. We have, as Professor Goel said, we have a huge volume. We can write on anything, but they need inspiration. So next I encourage them is to write on retrospective case series. And then our residency has a mandatory thesis writing project, We have a 3-year residency project, so they have to they have to prospectively recruit the patient and write a thesis. And we encourage our resident to publish that also. So by the end of their residency, they will have at least 4 or 5 papers. So this is how we do. Another is we have a small, $800 encouragement kind of, scholarship that we can get from our campus for the resident and for the department. That also helps. It's around $800 per year.
I see. Thank you very much. And this is very important to us. And with ACNS, we also encourage research, and we have our own paper, the Asian Journal of Neurosurgery, and we do encourage more publications from the site and more brilliant research so that we could support research activities among the young neurosurgeon. And thank you so much.